Chapter 5044. At this moment, Sun Ting and Sun Ling knew why their elder sister was in such a hurry to let them manage Carefree Mountain Villa. The others also understood why Tanghua was in such a hurry to cultivate the two of them. Perhaps she already knew that she wouldn't live long. Later, they learned from Immerse that Tanghua had indeed said such a thing more than 10 years ago. She said that Grandpa Mountain God told her fortune, so she made preparations in advance. Immerse said, I don't know if she asked Grandpa Mountain God about my lifespan. Perhaps because she asked, she was very happy to make an appointment with me in the next life. The others didn't understand. Immerse called Sun Ting and Sun Ling in front of him. Ling I'll have to trouble you to take care of my parents in the future. When Immerse and Zhang Yuyu heard Immerse's strange words, they interrupted him and told him not to think too much. They even said that Tanghua also hoped that he would live well. No, Guo won't force me to live. No matter what choice I make, she will support me. Moreover, I can feel that she is my life. If she's gone, I'll lose half of my life. If she's gone, my life will slowly disappear. Father, mother, it's not that I can't figure it out, and it's not that I want to do something stupid. This is the fate between Guo and me. Immerse and Zhang Yuyu didn't go out to play. They accompanied Immerse every day, afraid that something would happen to him. A few days later, they discovered a very strange thing. Immerse's aura became more and more ethereal, as if he was going to leave immediately. He was so light that people couldn't catch him. Until the last day, Immerse and Zhang Yuyu saw Immerse. At this moment, Immerse's gaze was a little unfamiliar to them. The aura on his body was strangely strong, but when he saw them, he restrained it completely. Xian Zhang Yuyu shouted. She understood that Xian was really going to leave this time. Immerse's indifferent gaze fell on the two of them. Thinking of the time he spent with the two of them, his calm gaze became warmer. Father, mother, I'm going to find her. If I'm late, the time we meet in the next life will be delayed. Take care. I'm sorry I can't stay to accompany you. Immerse took out a jade pendant and gave it to the two of them. This is a jade pendant. I know that the two of you have deep feelings for each other and even promised a next life. As long as you mix your blood and drop it, you can be husband and wife in your next life. Zhang Yuyu hugged Immerse and cried, Grandpa Mountain God, is it true? Xian do you have an extraordinary background like Guo? Someone's a god, Grandpa. Grandpa Mountain God is fake. That's just an excuse. She doesn't want to cause too much trouble. However, Guo and I do come from the same place. She came here to change a tragedy, but I came here only for her. Xian do you mean that you didn't die and lose other places? Zhang Yuyu grasped the key point. Immerse admitted, yes. Mother, you don't have to be sad. I'm not dead. I just went somewhere else. If fate wills it, perhaps we will meet again under different identities in the future. Zhang Yuyu somewhat accepted this setting. Her son didn't die. He went to another place. She didn't feel so sad. Her son was not an ordinary person, and so was her daughter-in-law. Were they immortals who came down from the heavens? If that was the case, she was even less sad. But she couldn't bear to part with them. Immerse left. Many years later, Sun Ting and Sun Ling were demolishing the house in Carefree Mountain Villa. They found a crippled Hung Zhou in a room. At this time, Hung Zhou didn't go crazy. He couldn't deceive the two siblings. Instead, he was tricked by the two siblings. Sun Ling said, Brother, this guy suffered in Big Sister's hands. I was wondering why he was so miserable. Sun Ting said, Then let's not repair his house. We can live here. After all, this is Big Sister's legacy. We can't destroy it. Sun Ling said, Yes. I'll get someone to call father and mother over. They will be very happy to see it. When Tang Wenguan and Sun Jushan saw Hung Zhou's miserable appearance, they felt very complicated. The two also accepted that Tanghua and Immerse were immortals who came down to the mortal world. Therefore, they weren't surprised that Hung Zhou suffered in the hands of Tanghua. Since it's Guo's legacy, let's leave it here. Tang Wenguan said, Don't destroy it. Make sure that all the items here are intact. Hung Zhou heard this and begged for mercy. Unfortunately, it was useless. Tang Wenguan walked out of the dark room with a smile on his face and tears in his eyes. It turns out that it's not my jinx who made those people unlucky. It's Guo'er who did these things behind the scenes. I understand. My martial arts manual must have been given to me by Guo'er, Sun Jishan said. Chapter 5045. Fuck. My past life, the life before that, and the life before that. Do I have to count up to now? Lin Kai couldn't believe it. He was having fun, but he was pulled into this dark place by a system that told him that he had been a scumbag for 99 lifetimes. However, this big jerk of a man had someone who truly liked him in every lifetime. But as a peerless scumbag, he couldn't see the good in this person. Not only did he hurt her, but he also abandoned her. He even used her. After that, he patted his butt and left. Now, this so-called scumbag had modified System 978 and brought him here to appease the person who truly cared for him. He wanted to resolve the resentment in her heart and live a peaceful life with her. Otherwise, he wouldn't have a next life. I think you're joking. Lin Kai obviously didn't want to go back. He had lived such a carefree life. Who would be willing to waste energy and emotions on such meaningless things? He felt that feelings and sincerity were all bullshit. Those who liked him, weren't they all willing to do it? Since they were willing, what did it have to do with Lin Kai? They didn't live well because they asked for it. How could they blame him for being a scumbag? Since they knew he was a scumbag, why didn't they break up with him earlier? Lin Kai wasn't the type to force people. If they didn't want to get along, they could just separate. What he meant was, hurry up and get lost. In the end, those people thought he was a scumbag and even developed resentment. They wanted him to go back and resolve it. 978, you're crazy. I'm not going. I don't care where you came from. Hurry up and send me back. System 978, Lin Kai, you can't go back. You forgot that after you went out to sea, you were knocked over by the turbulent waves and fell into the sea. If you want to go back now, you'll only face your bloated corpse. To put it simply, you're already dead. You're a scumbag. If you don't do as I say, you won't have the chance to reincarnate. After 49 days, your soul will disappear from this world and become nourishment for the world. You've already been dead for a day. If you don't believe me, you can check again tomorrow. The power of your soul will weaken. Lin Kai didn't believe it. He felt that this strange system was lying to him. However, on the second day, he did feel a little weaker. For the next 5 days, he became weaker and weaker. He started to panic when he realized that he would never have the chance to reincarnate. In the 10th heaven, Lin Kai agreed to go back and resolve the grievances of those sincere people. After you accept this mission, the system will forcibly inject your sincerity towards them. You are a heartless person. If you don't inject your feelings into them, you won't be able to complete the mission. Remember, you have to work hard to win their hearts and make them willing to spend the rest of their lives with you. Otherwise, it means that the mission has failed. System 978 warned, you only have 3 chances to fail. If you don't succeed after 3 times, it means that you have lost the chance to reincarnate forever. You can only disappear from this world. Lin Kai said reluctantly, got it? Host, prepare to begin teleportation. Teleportation complete. You should first browse through the contents of this world so that you can figure out how to deal with it. Exchange good books. Follow VX's public account. If you follow now, you can receive cash red packets. Chapter 5046. Lin Kai browsed through the world's storyline. His identity was the son of the Lin family, a well-known playboy. He knew how to eat, drink, gamble, and whore. He liked flirtatious and sexy women, and did not like the obedient and pure girls. His mission target was a very gullible and innocent girl who had lost both her parents but had a big family business. The daughter of the Tang family. Currently, the Tang family was being managed by a manager because she was too naive and could not do these things. The person who arranged all this was her grandfather. Her grandfather passed away last year and did not have time to arrange her marriage. In his previous life, he had tasted too many fiery red roses and saw a fresh little white flower. He suddenly became interested. Tanghua was a very innocent girl. How could she resist the advances of a playboy like him? Soon, she fell into his hands. At first, he felt that it was very fresh. However, after 3 months, he was tired of it and did not want to be with her anymore. However, his family had been urging him to find a proper partner. So, he did not break up with Tangwa. Instead, he chose to keep her hanging and even brought her to meet his parents. The two quickly got engaged and then got married. Therefore, the Tang family was taken over by the Lin family. This naive girl thought that Lin Kai was her true love, so she let the Lins take care of it. After getting married, he felt free. He was no longer forced to marry by his parents. His parents should be satisfied that he found a good wife. So, he wanted to have fun. This kind of thing could not be hidden from Little White Flower. He did not intend to hide it. Little White Flower looked at him with red eyes every day. She even asked him why he went out to find another woman. They quarreled and argued. In the end, Little White Flower wanted a divorce. Of course, his parents did not agree. His brothers gave him an idea. Make Little White Flower pregnant. That way, she would not have time to pester him. So, he did that. Little White Flower was too easy to coax. She saw that he did not go out and was dead set on him. A few months later, she was indeed pregnant. Then, he wanted to have fun again. He could not hide the fact that he wanted to have fun. Little White Flower went to find him and accidentally had a miscarriage. Perhaps he still felt a little guilty. After spending half a year with Little White Flower, he planned to make her pregnant again. But this time, Little White Flower didn't seem to be willing. She was cold to him and didn't like him like before. In his previous life, he was a very possessive person. If something that originally belonged to him was no longer his, he would be unhappy. Therefore, he used all kinds of methods to make Little White Flower feel sorry for him and care about him. With this cycle, Little White Flower also realized that Lin Kai was a trap and planned to escape from it. However, before she could do anything, she was diagnosed with an illness that was transmitted to her by Lin Kai. Lin Kai was a playboy by nature. It wasn't strange for him to accidentally get sick. This time, Little White Flower was truly in despair. What was even more hateful was that the outside world was spreading rumors that she was the one who went out to fool around and passed the disease to Lin Kai. In fact, no one in the circle believed her. Everyone was well aware of it. However, she could not accept such an outcome and chose to end her life by committing suicide. Am I such a scumbag in this world? Lin Kai touched his nose subconsciously. This girl is so good. Was I really blind in my previous life? I must find her and give her a happy future. System 978 did not say anything. As expected, emotions were still needed for the host to complete the mission without pressure. Red envelope reading. Follow the public account. The highest amount of red envelopes from reading is 888 yuan. Otherwise, he was sure that this guy would hurt Tangwa again. Chapter 5047. What kind of scumbag is this Lin Kai? She was about to break up, and he actually came back to coax her. Someone like the original owner who had lost all her family members didn't have much sense of security. It should be said that her personality wasn't perfect. It would be strange if she wasn't ruined by him. Tangwa had already finished reading the plot of this world. It could be said that among all the scumbags she had met, Lin Kai was definitely the best. There weren't many people as scumbags as him. This Lin family was also not good. They actually said that the original owner went out to get sick. Lin Kai was indeed selfish. He didn't care about the original owner at all. When he saw someone take the blame, he simply acquiesced. This kind of person actually had a girlfriend? How could he live well? Why wasn't he the one who committed suicide in the end? After the original owner died, Lin Kai got sick and stopped messing around. His illness was under control, and he really stopped. He actually lived a good life. The current time was that the original owner and Lin Kai had only been dating for half a month. Fortunately, there was still time. The two of them didn't have any intimate relations. But according to the original plot, the two of them would live together in another month. For Lin Kai, this was the slowest speed, because he felt that the original owner was a very pure and clean little white flower. It was the first time she tried something new, so she was more patient. When Lin Kai pursued the original owner, he really didn't leave any leeway. During those 2 months, he didn't fool around. It had to be said that this playboy's methods were really brilliant. Tang Group was managed by a manager. This was someone her grandfather hired. Since someone was doing it, Tangwa didn't plan to take over. The original owner opened a flower shop because she liked to stay in a place full of flowers. It didn't matter if the flowers could be sold or not. So the flower shop lost a lot of money every month. But she had a lot of money and could afford to lose money. Tangwa was sitting in the flower shop drinking tea, reading, and petting her cat. In the flower shop, she also hired 2 assistants to help her deal with the trivial matters of the shop. The salary was also higher. Tangwa looked at the time. The scumbag Lin Ikai would pick her up for dinner at 6:00 in the evening. It would definitely be a very romantic dinner. There was still an hour before 6:00. She planned to greet the people in the group first. At 6:00 in the evening, Lin Ikai showed up at the familiar flower shop. When he reached the door, he already saw the girl sitting on the rattan chair. She was quietly flipping through a book. There was a cup of flower tea on the table, and on another rattan chair, there was a lazy cat lying on it. He tidied up his clothes and smoothed out the creases on them. A smile appeared on his face. Pursuing girls was a piece of cake. Wasn't this what he was best at? Lin Ikai. Zhou Lingwei, the assistant in the flower shop, saw Lin Ikai walk in and immediately greeted him enthusiastically. When she was about to call him young Master Lin, Lin Ikai hurriedly gestured for her to be quiet, meaning not to let Tangwa know that he was here. Zhou Lingwei hurriedly nodded. There were 2 assistants in the flower shop. They worked in shifts. Today it was her, and tomorrow it was Zhang Kefi. Because the salary was good, it was easy. The boss didn't lack money, so she was very happy here. Give me a bouquet of flowers. Your boss loves lilies the most. Put a lily in the middle of a big bouquet of red roses. Lin Ikai lowered his voice and said, this means that those plain clothes can't compare to her freshness. It was a bit tacky, but girls liked it, especially this kind of little white flower. Zhou Lingwei. I know, young Master Lin, you're so good to the boss. Of course, I like Guogua the most. Lin Ikai said these words without any pressure. He, who was injected with emotions by the system, only had her in his eyes. Chapter 5048. Guogua. It's time to get off work. Lin Ikai walked in front of Tangwa and called out. Tangwa closed the book and raised her head to look at Lin Ikai. Lin Ikai indeed had a mesmerizing face, especially that pair of peach blossom eyes that were particularly attractive. He was handsome, tall, and a rich second generation. He knew how to talk and coax. She thought that there weren't many girls who wouldn't be moved by him, especially for someone like the original owner, who had lost all her relatives and suddenly had a person who cared for her meticulously. It was hard not to be moved. Lin Ikai had used this method to make the original owner fall step by step and finally walk on the road of no return. Why are you looking at me? Do you think your boyfriend is very handsome? Lin Ikai placed a bouquet of roses in front of Tangwa. In the middle was a lily. For you? Tangwa pretended to be shy and received it. Thank you. Why is there a lily in the middle? This was the question the original owner had asked before. She would ask it again. She wanted to see what tricks this peerless big scumbag had up his sleeves. If the other party wanted to try something new, then she would make it so that the other party would never be able to taste it again. She would make him repeat the same mistakes. That illness, it would be better if he contracted it again. Because this flower is you, Lin Ikai said. The others are all ordinary. Look at how conspicuous you are in the middle. No matter how beautiful these roses are, no matter how red they can't hide your elegance. It's time to eat. Lin Ikai changed the topic. If you miss the time to eat, it won't be good for your stomach. I remember the last time you missed a meal, you had a stomachache. Don't let it happen again. And Tangwa responded. She put the book to the side and patted the cat on the other chair. Then she picked up her bag and stood up. She naturally held onto Lin Ikai's arm. Wei Wei, I'll leave this place to you, Tangwa said. After Zhou Lingwei replied, she and Lin Ikai went out. She hadn't thought of how to deal with Lin Ikai yet. People like Lin Ikai didn't care about feelings at all. The original owner had done so many things, but she couldn't get the slightest bit of guilt from Lin Ikai. Using feelings to retaliate against this person was useless. But this person had a bit of male chauvinism and possessiveness. If she wanted to give him a lesson, it wasn't impossible. First of all, if the other party were to spend so much effort only to realize that she wasn't moved at all, He would probably feel frustrated, but he wouldn't give up. Since she hadn't thought of it, she had to play with the cat to play. While Tangwa was thinking about her plan, Linny Kai was also thinking about it. He glanced at the well-behaved girl beside him. In fact, he didn't like this type of girl. But after being injected with rich feelings by the system, he was now very fond of Tangwa. His heart was full of her. Although his heart was full of her, Lin Ikai's nature was still there. It couldn't be changed. But because of the mission, he wouldn't touch the red line that would make Tangwa sad. After a happy dinner, Tangwa refused to continue the activities according to the original owner's way. She said she wanted to go home and rest. Lin Ikai didn't force her and sent her home. The next day, Lin Ikai and Tangwa continued to repeat their previous life. Tangwa wasn't bored. This was a rare piece. This kind of repetitive life, after Tangwa came, had been repeating for half a month. Lin Ikai gradually became anxious. I'm obviously working so hard. Why doesn't she give me any response? She's not as good as me in my previous life. At that time, I could kiss her. At most, I can let her hold my arm. Chapter 5049. System 978 comforted. Take it slow. Although you were the person in your previous life, the difference between you two is still quite big, and the methods you use are also slightly different. There's still a long time. Host, you should work harder. This should be the best way to get a girl. As long as you continue to give her your sincerity, treat her well, and give her a sense of security, she will definitely be dead set on you. This is too slow. I already can't wait to live a happy married life with her. I plan to ask her to go on some exciting rides. When the time comes, success will naturally follow. Where do you want to go to play? Tangwa asked. Haunted house, adventure house, and roller coaster. How about that? I heard you say before that your grandfather didn't have time to take you to play these when he was alive, so you missed out on them. Now I'll help you make up for it. How about it? Tangwa felt a little strange. The original storyline didn't have these things. Actually, these 2 days, she clearly felt that Lin Ikai was a little off. How should she put it? In the original storyline, Lin Ikai was supposed to have a gamer's personality. Even if he was pursuing the original owner, he still had some reservations. The affectionate look in his eyes was still very easy to see. Recently, after interacting with Lin Ikai, she clearly felt that Lin Ikai seemed to like her a lot. Just as Tangwa was hesitating, the system's voice sounded in her ear. Host, Lin Ikai has a system. He was just communicating with that system. Tangwa communicated with the system in her mind. Connect to me. I feel that there's something wrong with him. It seems that the problem lies with the system. She's hesitating. She doesn't know if she'll agree. Lin Ikai said to System 978, as long as she agrees, I guarantee that the journey will be very exciting. Other than the haunted house, adventure house, roller coaster, I've also arranged other rides. I guarantee that when the time comes, success will follow naturally. Tangwa was silent. What was going on? Success will follow naturally? Lin Ikai was seen through by a mission enforcer? From his tone, it didn't seem like a good person. Do as you see fit. As long as you can get her heart and live a happy life with her, then her resentment will disappear. It's all your fault for being such a scumbag in your past life. That's why you're in such trouble now. For an unrepentant scumbag like you, you wouldn't have been able to complete the mission without this system's help. 978 continued. Don't worry, I may not have other skills, but when it comes to pursuing women, I dare to say that I'm number 2. Capturing Guogua's heart is only a matter of time. So, this person was still Lin Ikai? Tangwa understood a little. The other party must have been bound by a system and came back to correct his previous mistakes, win her heart, and eliminate her resentment. Lin Ikai was still a scumbag. However, due to certain reasons, he had no choice but to come back to complete the mission. The system was afraid that he would fail, so it even injected emotions into him. From the looks of it, he didn't really want to make it up to him. He just had to do it for a reason, which was even worse than before. Guogua, do you want to go? Tangwa didn't answer. Lin Ikai asked again, don't worry, I'll definitely accompany you when you go to those places. There won't be any problems. Okay, I'm a little scared of haunted houses. Brother Ikai, you have to be with me. When the time comes, you're not allowed to let go of my hand, Tangwa said fearfully. At this moment, Tangwa had already decided to teach Lin Ikai a lesson. Don't worry, isn't it my duty to protect you? Lin Ikai was overjoyed. Let's go this weekend. How about it? Okay, Tangwa said with anticipation. Chapter 50-50. On Saturday, Lin Ikai came to Tangwa's house early and waited downstairs. Tangwa did not intend to let Lin Ikai enter her house. She received a call from Lin Ikai and said, "Brother Lin Ikai, wait for me for a moment." Okay, it doesn't matter. In Lin Ikai's opinion, waiting for the other party was the most basic thing to do when pursuing a woman. However, he did not expect to wait for 2 hours. In his records, this had never happened before. As a gentleman, he could not rush, lest he left a bad impression on the other party. He did not know what went wrong, which made Tangwa's feelings for him still remain very strange, and she had no intention to go further. This made him very anxious. If this continued, he would never be able to capture the other party's heart, and his mission would fail. In fact, after hanging up the phone, Tangwa went back to sleep. Nearly 2 hours later, she got up, tidied up briefly, and went downstairs to see Lin Ikai. "I'm sorry to keep you waiting." Tangwa stood in front of Lin Ikai and said apologetically, "I was delayed by something." "It doesn't matter. Wasn't it just 2 hours?" As long as the other party was satisfied and moved by him, everything was worth it. It was not bad. "Where shall we go first?" Lin Ikai asked. Tangwa got into Lin Ikai's car. After thinking for a while, she said, "Can we go to the haunted house first? I've never been to a haunted house since I was a child." "Okay, then let's go to the haunted house." When Lin Ikai was about to drive, Tangwa handed him a thermos cup. "This is the coffee I diluted for you just now. Try it." Lin Ikai was delighted and took the small thermos cup. The other party made coffee for him probably because she felt a little sorry for wasting so much time. It was also possible that she took him to heart. "Thank you. It's the taste I like. I found that the coffee you made was to my liking. It seems that this is fate," Lin Ikai said. "I don't know when I'll be able to drink the coffee you make for me every day." Tangwa smiled shyly at Lin Ikai. "I will. As if. In your dreams. Dream on." Tangwa personally saw Lin Ikai drink up all the coffee in the small thermos and smiled with satisfaction. "I didn't expect her coffee to be so delicious." Lin Ikai had already started the car and was complaining to System 978, "In my previous life, I really didn't know how to enjoy life. This coffee brewing technique is simply top-notch. The only regret is that the taste is still a little lacking after being soaked in the thermos for a while. If you drink it right after it's made, the taste will be even better." System 978 heard Lin Ikai's nagging and reminded him Lin Ikai could hear the urgency in System 978's voice. He was not an idiot. He could feel that System 978 was more concerned about whether or not Tangwa was sincere to him. Rather, it was more concerned about whether or not Tangwa was sincere to him. Even if he knew the truth, he had already boarded this pirate ship. As long as he could complete the mission, it would not affect him. He really did not want to disappear from this world. An hour later, Lin Ikai brought Tangwa to the city's largest haunted house. "Don't worry, just stay by my side. I'll keep an eye on you." Lin Ikai comforted her. Tangwa's eyes were filled with uncertainty, but she still nodded firmly. "Okay." Chapter 50-51. Lin Ikai had been to this kind of haunted house countless times, and he always brought girls with him. He liked it the most when those girls crawled into his arms in fear. For him, it was really a small scene. He had a feeling that after today, Tangwa would definitely be closer to him. However, when Lin Ikai and Tangwa walked side by side into the haunted house, Lin Ikai couldn't help but feel goosebumps all over his body. Looking at the haunted house in front of him, he couldn't help but feel his hair stand on end. Those scenes gave people a very real feeling. Just as he was thinking this, he felt some kind of liquid leaking from above. The lights in the haunted house were not the dim red and green lights he imagined, but white lights. How could it be white lights? Lin Ikai had this doubt in his heart. How could a haunted house use such daytime lights? It didn't have the atmosphere of a haunted house at all, okay? With this doubt, He looked at the place where the liquid was leaking from above, and half of his soul almost disappeared. Ah! Lin Ikai screamed subconsciously, and was so scared that he staggered and fell to the ground. Because there was a bloody corpse hanging from the ceiling. The corpse was still staring at him, and its face was covered in blood. The blood seemed to be flowing endlessly, and it kept dripping down, and there was a trend of more and more blood. Some dripped in front of his eyes, and there was already a large pool of red liquid on the ground in front of him. There were also some that dripped onto his face because he had just fallen. Fake. This must be fake. How could it be real? This is fake. Fake. He had lost his composure just now, and he didn't know if Tangwa would look down on him. Thinking of Tangwa, Lin Ikai subconsciously looked at Tangwa beside him, and then he realized that in the empty white room, there was only him and the hanging corpse. This made Lin Ikai's heart jump, and he quickly got up from the ground, and without caring about anything else, he shouted Tangwa's name loudly. He shouted as he ran, and finally ran out of that scary room. However, there was no response from Tangwa. Lin Ikai remembered that he still had a system and hurriedly called 978 in his heart. The 978 that always responded to him was actually silent at this time. Something was not right. Why would 978 not respond to him? Could it be that this place is not a fake haunted house, and all the scenarios are real? Did he see a ghost? Just as Lin Ikai was thinking about this, he ran into another room. When he walked in, he subconsciously looked at the ceiling. There was no corpse there. He let out a heavy sigh. However, before he could finish heaving a sigh of relief, he felt something dripping on his head again. He subconsciously touched the top of his head and opened his palm to take a look. What he saw scared him so much that his whole body trembled and his teeth turned white. His palm was bright red. It was blood. Lin Ikai looked up and saw a bloody corpse hanging above the door. He was so scared that he almost fainted. He kept calling for 978, but there was no response. What Lin Ikai didn't know was that 978 heard his panic cry and comforted him. Chapter 50-52. No matter what 978 said, Lin Ikai didn't seem to hear it. He kept screaming, "Ah!" His voice sounded very pitiful. What made 978 even more surprised was that Lin Ikai even abandoned Tangwa and ran into the haunted house by himself. Tangwa stood where she was, looking a little confused. System 978. Stupid teammate. Miss, your partner has left. Do you want to continue walking? Or do you want the staff to send you out through the safe passage? Tangwa was thinking about whether to find Lin Ikai or let the staff send her out when a voice rang in her ears. She turned her head and saw a tall man standing beside her. When he saw her looking at him, the man said, "Your partner seems to be a little cowardly. Maybe he ran away because he was scared. Don't worry, there are surveillance cameras everywhere. If the staff finds something wrong with him, they will go and bring him out." Tangwa was silent. Is that so? The staff should have found something wrong with Lin Ikai. They should be chasing after him now to prevent any accidents. However, in Lin Ikai's eyes, there was a group of psychopathic murderers chasing after him. Just as Tangwa expected, after Lin Ikai saw a few corpses, he heard terrifying footsteps coming from all directions. Before he could think, he saw someone rushing toward him with a knife. At this moment, he had forgotten that he was in a haunted house. He only wanted to run for his life. For a moment, he was chasing after the staff and even got into a fight. When Tangwa heard the system's announcement, she said in her heart that when this was over, she would ask her manager to help invest in this haunted house and increase the staff's salary. She would have to trouble them today. I'm a little worried about him. I want to go and take a look, Tangwa answered the man beside her. How could she miss Lin Ikai's famous scene? Then come with me. We can take care of each other, the man said politely. If it doesn't work later, I'll ask the staff to send you there. All right. Tangwa didn't say anything more and quickened her pace. If she didn't go now, she wouldn't be able to see Lin Ikai's famous scene in a while. The man seemed to know that she was eager to find Lin Ikai, and his pace was fast. He seemed to be very familiar with this place. Not long after, he led her to Lin Ikai's location. At this moment, Lin Ikai was holding an item to defend himself. He was yelling at the people around him not to go over and not to kill him. He looked like he had gone mad. There's something wrong with him. You have to restrain him to prevent him from harming the other customers. The man beside Tangwa said, all of you, attack together. Imprison him and get him out of here first. Also, remember to call the ambulance in case his life is in danger. Then, Tangwa saw Lin Ikai being pressed to the ground by the haunted house's staff and tied up. He was still shouting not to kill him, and his expression was full of fear. Lin Ikai was really desperate. In his eyes, he was caught by a murderous maniac and was about to be tortured by the other party. However, when he was taken out of the haunted house, his eyes suddenly became clear. Looking at the familiar scene, Lin Ikai was stunned. Wait a little longer. The ambulance will be here soon. Lin Ikai saw a tall and handsome man comforting Tangwa, who was standing to the side. He wanted to break free from the shackles, but he realized that he was tied up tightly and couldn't break free at all. Gua. Lin Ikai called Tangwa. Are you okay? Tangwa abandoned the man who was talking and quickly ran to Lin Ikai. Brother Ikai, how are you? Chapter 50-53. What's wrong with me? I'm fine. Lin Ikai thought of the previous scene. He couldn't say it out loud. Obviously, there was something wrong with the situation. It must be the haunted house. He would ask 978 what was wrong later. Everything just now was too realistic. Lin Ikai was really scared. His pale face still hadn't recovered. Brother Ikai, you don't look so good. Are you not feeling well? Let's go to the hospital for a checkup. We won't play other games today. How about it? Lin Ikai wasn't interested in continuing. Since Tangwa said so, he agreed. Before the ambulance arrived, Tangwa thought of the warm-hearted man from before and turned to ask for his name. Yitang. Tangwa. Tangwa introduced herself. Thank you for today. You're welcome. Is he your boyfriend? Of course, Yitang recognized Lin Ikai. He was the famous playboy in the city. He heard that he was interested in a good girl recently and hadn't gone out with his friends for a long time. This good girl was actually the orphan of the Tang family. Yitang frowned slightly. Of course, he didn't think that Lin Ikai had changed. He obviously wanted to try something new. Once he succeeded, this obedient girl would definitely be abandoned in the end. Yes. After receiving Tangwa's affirmation, Yitang only felt flustered. He didn't know why. She even thought of how great it would have been if they had met earlier. The ambulance arrived not long after. Yitang watched Tangwa and Lin Ikai get into the ambulance. He didn't look away for a long time. He didn't know if this good girl knew Lin Ikai's true colors. If she knew, would she still like someone like Lin Ikai? On second thought, she should know if Lin Ikai had tried to cover up his past. This Lin Ikai's method of coaxing girls was not ordinary. It might give people a feeling that a prodigal son had turned over a new leaf. Young master, it's fine. You guys can go back to your work. No, young master, I just received a call. It was from the manager of Tangkor. He said that he wants to invest in our haunted house project. Actually, the haunted house was still in the early stages of development, and the surrounding businesses were slowly investing in it. To Yitang, it did not matter even if no one invested. The haunted house project was just for fun. He was interested in these things. Tang Corporation? Is it the Tang Group that only has a little girl left? Yitang didn't care at first, but he suddenly thought of Tangwa. From the looks of it, Tangwa did not seem to like haunted houses. So, why would the manager of Tangkor suddenly invest in haunted houses? How strange. You're in charge of contacting Tangkor. See what they need. Yitang was still confused. Why would the Tang family suddenly invest in his haunted house? Currently, there was not much traffic at the haunted house, so most people did not have high hopes for it. In fact, he wanted to build a real entertainment center here, so he needed a lot of money. If someone was willing to invest, of course, the more the better. Why? When Yitang returned home, he was also puzzled. Lin Ikai was Tangwa's boyfriend. He was scared by the haunted house, but Tangkor still invested in it. Was this love or enmity? Yitang rubbed his head. It was probably enmity, right? How could it be? Tangwa and Lin Ikai couldn't possibly have any enmity between them. She was a good girl. She shouldn't have such a black-bellied heart. It couldn't be that she was happy because the haunted house scared Lin Kai, so she invested in his haunted house, right? Peak. Chapter 50-54. Lin Kai was scared out of his wits. After checking all the items in the hospital, all the indicators were normal. He didn't dare to say anything about what happened to him. He was afraid that he would be sent to a mental hospital and locked up. After checking that there was no problem, Lin Kai was discharged from the hospital. Brother Ikai, you should rest well for the next few days. Your mental state doesn't look right. Tangwa comforted him. When you're better, we'll play other items. Lin Kai was already rejecting the haunted house in his heart. Okay, I'll take you on the roller coaster next time. Well, I haven't ridden a roller coaster in 10 years. Tangwa continued. I'm looking forward to the next time we go together. In this moment, Tangwa had already thought about what kind of life Lin Kai would have. Just let everyone think that he had lost his mind. She didn't think that the system called 978 really wanted Lin Kai to come back to repent. The main purpose was to let Lin Kai obtain her sincerity. Based on the fact that she had transmigrated through so many worlds, she guessed that if he obtained her sincerity, 978 should be able to obtain energy or her luck and fortune. So, that was a bad system. Got it. Lin Kai returned home and hurriedly called 978 and told him about the situation in the haunted house. 978, do you know what's going on? Is there a problem with that haunted house? I kept calling you before. Did you not hear me? Now that he thought about it carefully, Lin Kai's back was covered in cold sweat. That haunted house might be the scene of a murder. I will never go to that place again. He was able to reincarnate into his previous life because he naturally believed in the legends of ghosts and gods. Thinking that what he saw was not an illusion, but an evil spirit, Lin Kai felt that he had to go to the temple to pray. Lin Kai went to the temple. This matter was found out by a few of his friends. They invited him to go out for a gathering. Recently, he wanted to take a break. He wanted to discuss with his friends how to deal with Tangwa, so he agreed to the gathering. When he went to the private room, he found that his friends were all hugging a beautiful woman. He was used to this kind of scene and didn't refuse a woman to sit beside him. He didn't want others to think that he was strange. Anyway, he wouldn't do anything with those women. Lin Kai talked about his troubles and asked everyone to come up with ideas. Due to the incident at the haunted house, all his previous plans had been ruined. In the past few days, he had used the excuse that he was not feeling well to avoid looking for Tangwa. He realized that if he didn't go, Tangwa wouldn't look for him either. What did that mean? This meant that she didn't care about him very much. This was going to be difficult. Young Master Kai, aren't you being too serious? Do you really want to be with that good girl for the rest of your life? I've never seen you spend so much effort on a woman. Lin Kai pushed him away. Cut the crap. Come up with some ideas. How can I make her fall in love with me as soon as possible so that I can marry her? Are you serious? Of course I'm serious. Lu Sheng. Since ancient times, what a beauty can't refuse is a hero saving the beauty. Arrange a hero saving the beauty, and I'm sure she will fall into your arms obediently. Lin Kai smiled bitterly. Didn't he have this idea before? Unfortunately, when he went to the haunted house, he didn't achieve anything and probably left a bad impression. How do you plan to do it? I'll help you find some gangsters to smash her flower shop. Young Master Kai, you can deal with it. This kind of scene is a little small, but it's very useful. Lu Sheng continued. The method was a little despicable, but it worked. As long as he could get Tangwa's heart, Lin Kai didn't care what methods he used. Anyway, he would treat her well in the future. Chapter 50-55. Oh, I know. Tangwa was not surprised that Lin Kai agreed to this idea. After all, he was not a good person. If a good person could make friends with someone like Lu Sheng, would he still agree to the other party's bad idea? She finally understood that Lin Kai was still the same even with the system injecting feelings into him. His feelings for her were just feelings. He would not reject her. Being with her would not change his nature. Boss, Lin Gongzi hasn't been here for a few days. Did something happen between you two? At this time, it was afternoon. Tangwa still maintained her previous habit of reading books and drinking coffee. There weren't many people who came to the flower shop. Zhou Lingwei finished some trivial matters in the flower shop and chatted with Tanghua. Zhou Lingwei did not know what Tanghua's real identity was, but she guessed that most likely she was a rich second generation. She was very envious. She often liked to talk with Tanghua. The original owner did not mind this. It was a kind of communication between people. Zhou Lingwei had her own plans. She wanted to gain the trust of the original owner. In the future, she might be able to get in touch with the other party circle and be liked by some rich second generation. She had a good appearance and was pretentious. She was not willing to live an ordinary life. In the original plot, Zhou Lingwei passed a lot of information to Lin Yikai. It could be said that Zhou Lingwei helped a lot in Lin Yikai's pursuit of the original owner. Lin Yikai was generous. He often came to the flower shop and bought the best flowers for Tanghua, who was sitting in the shop drinking coffee and reading books. When he asked Zhou Lingwei about Tanghua's hobbies, she told him everything. Of course, Lin Yikai gave a lot of tips. This was also the reason why she was willing to cooperate. When he met Zhang Kufei in the shop, Lin Yikai did not ask about Tanghua's information. Zhang Kufei was a girl who did things carefully. No matter what Lin Yikai said, she did not reveal any information about the original owner to Lin Yikai. Of course, the original owner did not know these things. The original owner was really a very well-protected piece of white paper, very pure. Logically speaking, how could the heiress of Tang Kor have such a personality? She had to start from her parents' death. Her parents had died in an accident. At that time, the original owner was at the scene. She had witnessed the tragic scene with her own eyes. It was an unerasable nightmare in her life. After her parents' death, her emotions had been unstable, and she had a hard time living a normal life. That disaster had caused her a lot of mental trauma, and she had to undergo a long period of psychological therapy. It's not convenient for young Master Lin recently, Tanghua explained simply. If she guessed correctly, Lin Yikai would pick her up for dinner in the afternoon. When Zhou Lingwei heard how Tanghua addressed Lin Yikai, she was stunned. She clearly felt that the boss's enthusiasm for Lin Yikai had decreased a lot. She even called him young Master Lin instead of brother Yikai. Tanghua thought that anyone who saw Lin Yikai's crazy appearance in the haunted house would be cold. Recently, except for sending a message to Lin Yikai the next day, she did not take the initiative to talk to him. When Lin Yikai called her, she either picked up casually and responded with a few words or pretended not to hear. This was also the reason why Lin Yikai was very distressed. She had thought about it. If Lin Yikai came today, she would say that they were not suitable for each other and see how he would react. Chapter 50-56. At 6:00 in the evening, Lin Yikai appeared on time. According to the usual routine, he bought a large bouquet of flowers in Tanghua's shop and sent it to her. Guogua, it's time to get off work. Let's go eat. I'm really sorry that I couldn't accompany you because of some personal matters recently. Tanghua closed the book and shook her head lightly. It's okay. Tanghua still walked out of the flower shop with Lin Yikai. She planned to talk to Lin Yikai in the car. After getting in the car, seeing that Lin Yikai was about to start the car, Tanghua said, "Wait a minute, I have something to say." "What's wrong?" Lin Yikai was slightly stunned. He listened to Tanghua and didn't drive. He found that Tanghua's seatbelt was not fastened properly. He looked a little annoyed. He was too careless. He didn't help her fasten the seatbelt. This would leave a bad impression. Lin Yikai wanted to fasten the seatbelt for Tanghua, but she refused. "I just want to say something. You don't have to fasten it. I have to go back to the shop later." Lin Yikai heard that Tanghua's tone was not right. It was not as intimate as before. He said to 978 in his heart, 978, why do I feel that her love for me has faded? Originally, she didn't love you very much at this time. The development between you two is not as good as before. You didn't come to see her a few days ago. She is an extremely insecure person. Now that she doesn't like you wholeheartedly, of course she will give you the cold shoulder if you don't see her for a few days. This kind of behavior can be considered a kind of self-protection. Lin Yikai felt that 978 was right. It seemed that his previous efforts were in vain. He had to start again. To chase this kind of obedient girl who didn't have any sense of security and lacked love, he had to do it in one go. He had to ask LV Sheng to help him arrange the trick of being a hero and saving the beauty. Tangwa heard the conversation between Lin Kai and 978 and smiled in her heart. She also looked forward to the other party's plan. Guogua, what do you want to say? Young Master Lin, I've been thinking a lot these past few days, and I've realized that we're not suitable for each other. Tangwa didn't want to maintain this uncomfortable relationship with Lin Kai. It was best to break up with him after what happened last time. This time, Lin Kai was frightened. He asked nervously, "Aren't we fine? Guogua, were you dissatisfied with me? Or did someone say something in front of you? I used to be a bit of a playboy, but that's all in the past. Ever since I met you, my entire heart belongs to you. I've never been a womanizer. I've already changed. I've changed for you. How can you abandon me just like that? If you're not satisfied with me, I'll change. Okay?" Tangwa's expression turned strange. After a moment's hesitation, she finally said, "I think you're too cowardly. You're so scared that you ended up in the hospital after going to a haunted house. That's not very suitable." Lin Kai, actually, under normal circumstances, your performance that day was indeed very bad. As soon as you went in, you ran away screaming. No woman can tolerate that. 978 added, "You don't have any heroic image in her heart. Now, you're nothing. Not only did you get scared, but you also took a long break because of it. It would be strange if she didn't break up with you." Lin Kai thought about it. 978 was right. That incident did leave a very bad impression on her. Guogua, that day was just an accident. Lin Kai tried to explain. Tangwa looked doubtful. Was it really an accident? Do you want to go to the haunted house to play again? Seeing Lin Kai's resistance, she said, "You look very scared. You're so cowardly. I suspect that if we really get together in the future and encounter something scary, you'll abandon me just like you did at the haunted house. The person I like doesn't have to be a big hero. At least, he can't be so cowardly." Chapter 50-57. Guogua, that won't happen again. I promise that what happened before was just an accident. I'm definitely not a coward. But, Tangwa continued, "But what? You might not believe it, but there are unclean things in that haunted house. I didn't run away for no reason, but I saw someone chasing me with a knife. At that time, I felt like I was there, so I could only choose to run." When Lin Kai spoke, his face was full of grievance and some fear, trying to win Tangwa's sympathy. He found that Tangwa was indeed silent, and his heart was relieved. "If you don't believe me, let's go to another haunted house. How about that?" Lin Kai said ingratiatingly, "You can't be so heartless and not give me any chance to make up for it, right?" Lin Kai thought in his heart that Tangwa did not seem to have much feelings for him. Perhaps it was only because of his previous pursuit that she agreed to be his girlfriend. If he wanted the other party to fall in love with him wholeheartedly, he needed to go through some things. He decided that when he went back today, he would discuss with Lu Sheng and arrange the scene of the hero saving the beauty as soon as possible. At that time, he would have to use the trick of injuring himself to gain the sympathy of those gangsters and let them beat him up. "Okay, I'll give you another chance." Tangwa seemed to have thought about it carefully. "I don't want to go to the haunted house anymore. I remember that there is a roller coaster in the haunted house. Let's go there." "Okay, when do we go? Can we go tomorrow?" Tangwa agreed. "Let's go tomorrow. We won't have dinner tonight." Tangwa opened the car door and walked back to the flower shop. Lin Kai looked at her ruthless back, and his face was a little ugly. "She's so heartless. She wants to break up with me because I'm a coward. It's mainly because you were so scared that you directly abandoned her and ran away. She chose the roller coaster, which is actually to your advantage. Even if you are a little scared, you won't abandon her and run away." "That's true. I'm not afraid of the roller coaster. I've been on this thing with many people before. Don't worry, this is not a haunted house. There won't be any problems." When Tangwa returned to the flower shop, Zhou Lingwei looked at her in surprise. She also looked at Lin Kai's car outside. "Boss, why are you back?" "I don't plan to eat today." "Boss, is there a problem with your relationship with young Master Lin?" Tangwa remembered that Zhou Lingwei was Lin Kai's mouthpiece and said, "Yes, He's too cowardly. The last time we went to the haunted house to play, he made a big fuss and ran away without caring about me. I plan to break up with him." Zhou Lingwei's eyes widened. It couldn't be? Young Master Lin was tall and muscular. How could he be scared by the fake things inside the haunted house? No wonder her boss wanted to break up with her. If she had such a boyfriend who ran away without caring about her, she would want to break up with him too. Of course, this boyfriend was rich. For someone like young Master Lin, she wouldn't break up with him. Instead, she would comfort and protect him. She wasn't the boss. She didn't lack money. She didn't have the ability to earn so much money. Of course, she wouldn't let go of a rich boyfriend. Tangwa didn't plan to fire Zhou Lingwei. With her around, it was good enough that she could pass the wrong message to Lin Yikai. The next day, Lin Yikai came to Tangwa's house early in the morning. This time, Tangwa didn't make things difficult for him. She went downstairs 10 minutes later. This time, she didn't give Lin Yikai coffee. Instead, she gave him a carton of milk. Lin Yikai drank it in 2 gulps in front of Tangwa. He even threw the carton of milk into the nearby trash can. Chapter 50-58. An hour later, Tangwa and Lin Yikai arrived at the roller coaster of the amusement park. They were still a few hundred meters away from the haunted house. Lin Yikai had an inexplicable fear of the haunted house. He felt that the place was not clean. Seeing so many people going there, he thought that one of them would be scared and scream like him. He was already brave enough. On the roller coaster, Lin Yikai was still talking with Tangwa about some interesting things. Tangwa didn't show much emotion on her face. She just responded indifferently as usual. Lin Yikai was not in a hurry. He had already discussed with Lu Sheng that tomorrow night he would play the hero to save the beauty and injure himself to gain her confidence. He believed that any woman would be moved by a man who was willing to sacrifice his life for her. The roller coaster slowly moved forward. As the speed increased, Lin Yikai couldn't speak anymore. He turned his head to look at Tangwa. As soon as he saw her, he felt very uncomfortable. The reason for that was because the person sitting beside him was not Tangwa. Instead, it was a badly mutilated person. He screamed subconsciously, and then something even more terrible happened. The roller coaster slowed down. He could gradually see the scene in front of him clearly. He found that the originally brand new roller coaster and the surrounding facilities not only looked old but also rusty. Especially the roller coaster. It made creaking sounds as if the machine had not been used for a long time. He could also see the big wheel in the distance, which was also full of rust. What frightened him even more was that he saw people falling off the big wheel one after another. In an instant, they were smashed into a pile of mud. At that moment, Lin Yikai's face turned pale. Not only that, but he also vomited. This was even more terrible than what he had seen in the haunted house. Was it because there was something unclean in this place that he shouldn't have come to? Lin Yikai tried to calm down, but something more terrible happened. People were falling off the roller coaster he was on. The people on the roller coaster screamed and cried in fear, which made Lin Yikai's heart flutter. What the hell is this place? He watched as people fell down one by one, smashed into smithereens. The roller coaster was getting shorter and shorter. Soon, it would fall to him. He forgot everything. Like the others, he screamed in terror. He also forgot that he had a system. Host, are you all right? 978 found that something was wrong with Lin Yikai, but no matter how he called, the other party did not respond. Tangwa looked at Lin Yikai, who was so scared that his face turned pale and kept screaming. She closed her eyes slightly and enjoyed the feeling of the roller coaster running fast. When the roller coaster stopped, Lin Yikai seemed to have lost half of his life. He was helped to the rest area by the staff. Miss Tang, do you need me to send your boyfriend to the hospital? Yi Tang suddenly appeared beside Tangwa. He was the one who designed this amusement park, and there were some new projects added to it recently. Of course, he had to stay here and keep an eye on them. When he saw that Tangwa and her boyfriend had come to experience the roller coaster, he couldn't help but come over. It was true that Lin Yikai was not good enough. Last time, it was a haunted house. This time, it was a roller coaster. He is not my boyfriend. Tangwa denied Lin Yikai's identity directly. Lin Yikai was so scared that he shivered and woke up immediately. He looked at Tang Guo with a pitiful face. Before he could say anything else, Tang Guo cut him off. Mr. Lin, I've already said this. You're really different from how I imagined you to be. I can't force myself to have such a cowardly boyfriend who would run away from me whenever we go to a haunted house. When we ride the roller coaster, he will cry. Chapter 50-59. Luckily, there were only the three of them here. Tang Guo's voice was very soft, so Lin Yikai wasn't too embarrassed. You can't drive like this. I'll call a car to send you to the hospital. I don't think there's a need to force this kind of activity that doesn't suit you. Tang Guo didn't give Lin Yikai a chance to speak. Didn't Yi Tang say that he would call someone to send Lin Yikai to the hospital? Yi Tang was very willing to help. He quickly took out his walkie-talkie and called a worker over to take Lin Yikai away. Miss Tang, do you want to experience our other activities? Or do you plan to go home? Yi Tang asked. Tang Guo shook her head. I'm not in the mood anymore. Oh, then did you drive here? Actually, Yi Tang knew that Tang Guo didn't drive. She took Lin Yikai's car. No, I've really given you guys a bad experience today. How about I send you home? Yi Tang took the opportunity to say, System, this kid is very smart. He should be happy now. Actually, he suspected that the host did it on purpose to give Yi Tang a chance to send her home. Then I'll have to trouble you. Halfway there, Tang Guo said, Can you send me to the flower shop first? My cat is still in the shop. Of course. Yi Tang didn't find it troublesome at all. Miss Tang actually runs a flower shop? It's just for fun. I like to live in places with flowers everywhere. That's true. Looking at flowers makes your mood much better, Yi Tang added. System. Scheming host, aren't you just exposing your location to the other party? Yet, this man was still so smug about it, thinking that he had obtained more information about her. The host's method of flirting with that guy was really skillful. Lin Yikai was sent to the hospital. When he went through various tests, he kept asking 978 in his heart, Why is it like this? You might have touched some dirty things in the haunted house. Host, the other party is very strange. It's best if you don't go. You can't do anything about it? It can't be helped. You haven't completed a single mission, so you can't get any points. If you have points, you can exchange them for evil warding talismans that can suppress those unclean things. Lin Yikai was speechless. Guogua broke up with me. Things are much worse than before. If I had known, I wouldn't have suggested going to the haunted house, and there wouldn't have been so much trouble. After the checkup, Lin Yikai was discharged from the hospital as there was nothing wrong with his body. For tomorrow night's matter, he still planned to proceed according to the original plan. They had just broken up, and there was still lingering warmth. He was afraid that if he waited for a while longer, Tang Guo would really not like him at all. Did Miss Tang really choose to break up with him? Love isn't child's play, Yi Tang suddenly said downstairs in Tang Guo's house. In fact, his words were somewhat hypocritical. He just wanted to confirm whether Tang Guo was real or not. If she was very resolute, it meant that Tang Guo did not like Lin Yikai that much, and he would have a chance. It's true that we're not suitable for each other. When we were together before, I couldn't stand his coaxing and pestering. Now I realize that we are not suitable for each other at all. All right, thank you for sending me home. I'll go up first. Goodbye. Yi Tang didn't say anything else. There would be a lot of time for them to meet in the future. She was single now. Coincidentally, he was also single. The next day, at around 6:00 in the afternoon, Tang Guo was reading a book when a few noisy voices suddenly came from outside. Sir, you really made a mistake. The flowers in your hands were definitely not bought from us. Zhou Lingwei tried to explain, but the person who came was tall and strong. He looked especially terrifying. There were even tattoos on his arms. The tattoos bulged along with his muscles. It was especially frightening. I don't care. I remember that I bought it from you guys. You guys actually sold me this kind of trash. My boss's pursuit of a girlfriend is ruined. You have to take responsibility. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translations Transmigration. Female Supporting Lead. Calm down. Chapters will continue to be updated in the handwriting bar. There are no advertisements on the website, so please bookmark and recommend the handwriting bar. Like to wear fast. Supporting female lead, calm down, please collect, wear fast. Supporting female lead, calm down, fight bar updates the fastest. Chapter 50-60. What's going on? Of course, Tangwa knew that Lin Yikai's men were here. She cooperated and walked out to ask Zhou Lingwei why those hooligans were making a ruckus outside. Zhou Lingwei's expression was ugly. Boss, these people are holding a bouquet of flowers and insist that they bought it from us. She walked in front of Tangwa and lowered her voice. They're most likely here to cause trouble. Got it. You can go to the side. I'll do it. Although Tangwa said so, Zhou Lingwei didn't do as she was told. She was a person who pursued money and fame, and she was also a smart person. At this time, she couldn't really listen to Tangwa and avoid these hooligans. She thought that doing so would make the boss think that she was afraid of trouble. If she could stand by the boss's side today, her impression of her would definitely be better. Tangwa was too lazy to care about these little tricks. As long as they didn't make a big mistake, didn't harm others, and didn't commit a crime. No matter what they did, it was her pursuit. Gentlemen, can you show me the flowers in your hands? Tangwa asked. When the hooligans heard this, they immediately handed the flowers to Tangwa. Tangwa looked around. The quality of this flower shop was indeed not good. The flowers inside were very loose, and the petals would fall together with a slight shake. She didn't need to look much to know that these flowers couldn't be from her shop. This bouquet of flowers isn't from my shop. You must have remembered wrongly. Tangwa handed the flowers back. Just as she finished speaking, the hooligans in front of her became agitated. They looked at her with fierce eyes and said impulsively, "Boss, this is your fault. It's clearly your flowers that have a problem. Why don't you admit it? I bought it from you. How could I remember wrongly? You clearly don't want to admit it and don't want to take responsibility. Brother, don't talk nonsense with this woman. This is a black-hearted boss, a profiteer. In my opinion, it's her bad luck that she met us today. If she had a better attitude, admitted her mistake, and compensated for our losses, then everything would be fine. In the end, she refused to admit it. Against such a black-hearted merchant, smash it for me." The one who spoke was obviously the leader of the hooligans. As soon as he finished speaking, several hooligans around him began to move. Rushing into the flower shop, he grabbed the delicate and beautiful flowers and smashed them to the ground. Then, he stomped on them twice. Things happened too quickly. By the time Zhou Lingwei reacted, she subconsciously screamed and shouted, "Why are you people so unreasonable? The flowers you took are not from our shop. Don't smash it. Don't smash it. Boss, what should we do?" Zhou Lingwei was about to cry. She asked Tangwa anxiously, as if she had smashed her own flowers. She was very distressed. Zhou Lingwei's heart ached for these flowers. After all, she was the one who took care of them every day. There was also such a good place to work. If she lost her job because of this, how could she not be sad? Call the police. Right, boss, let's call the police. Tangwa seemed to have just reacted. She nodded lightly, and, "Hurry up and call the police." Someone had already discovered Zhou Lingwei and Tangwa's conversation. Hearing that they were going to call the police, a hooligan rushed over, scaring Zhou Lingwei into screaming, "Call the police? Hand over your phone." Zhou Lingwei covered her phone, unwilling to hand it over. The hooligan fiercely picked up a stool and was about to smash it on her. Tangwa hurriedly said, "Give it to him." Only then did Zhou Lingwei give the phone to the hooligan. She was so scared that tears came out. She kept crying. Chapter 50-61. Tangwa didn't expect Zhou Lingwei to have such a personality. Although she was a little snobbish and selfish, there wasn't anything wrong with her. At least at this critical moment, she didn't run away. This was already very rare. It could be seen that Zhou Lingwei really cherished those flowers and plants. Otherwise, she wouldn't take care of them every day. "Boss, what should we do? If this goes on, all the flowers will be smashed by them. These are all my hard work." Zhou Lingwei cried beside Tangwa. She cried very sadly. She even secretly asked Tangwa, "Boss, with such a big loss, Can this shop still be open? If it couldn't be open, then she would lose her job. If she had known, she would have called the police immediately. Perhaps she would have had some leeway. Tangwa didn't know what to say. At this time, she was still worried about whether or not the flower shop could continue. Let them smash it. It's not that big of a loss, Tangwa said softly. When Zhou Lingwei heard this, she stopped crying. Her tears immediately stopped. Can we really continue? Yes. Zhou Lingwei wiped her tears and said, Boss, we have to keep the surveillance footage well. Once they leave, we'll call the police. I just memorized their license plate number. Also, I remember what they look like. I also know how to sketch, so I should be able to draw them. You want to run after smashing a little? Impossible. Just as Zhou Lingwei was still thinking about whether or not these delinquents would compensate Tangwa for her loss, a voice sounded from outside. Guogua, what's going on here? It was Lin Kai. Before Tangwa could say anything, Zhou Lingwei hurriedly shouted, Young Master Lin, these delinquents don't know what's right and wrong. They directly entered the shop and smashed things. They even stole my phone. What are you doing? Lin Kai shouted at the delinquents. They stopped and looked at Lin Kai. Then they continued to smash things. They didn't care about him at all. Lin Kai walked a few steps over. I'm asking you what you're doing? Hurry up and get out. Kid, do you want to die? Hurry up and scram. Don't disturb Brother Biao's work. The gangster pushed Lin Kai, and Lin Kai also pushed the gangster. It was as if sparks were flying between the two sides, and a spark was ignited. Brother, this brat is courting death. He'll be obedient after a beating. Several punks stopped smashing flowers, but surrounded Lin Kai in the middle, punching and kicking him. In the first place, they were in cahoots with Lin Kai. All they needed to do was play the hero saving the damsel in distress trick. What was a hero saving a damsel in distress? That was, Lin Kai had to defeat them. What do you mean by a ruse of self-injury? Even though Lin Kai had defeated them, he had also been beaten and injured. Therefore, these people punched Lin Kai a few times, and Lin Kai suppressed them and defeated them. But when Lin Kai was being beaten, the scene in his vision suddenly changed. It was no longer the flower shop, but a gloomy and terrifying place. This place was Tangwa's flower shop. How could she set up an illusion here? She didn't need to feed Lin Kai anything to eat. Now, Lin Kai wasn't facing a few delinquents, but some evil spirits. They were here to take his life. His mind was clear that this should be an illusion. He didn't want to pay attention to it, but he soon realized that something was wrong. When those evil spirits bit him, he actually felt pain. In just a few moves, they were beaten to the point where they couldn't fight back. Tangwa handed the cloth to Yitang. Tie them up. Yitang nodded slightly and did as he was told. Just like that, all the hooligans were tied up. Lin Kai's head was hit by a hooligan, and now he was semi-unconscious. He only knew that the evil spirit had been subdued, and he had won this time. When the police arrived, the scene was already unsightly. Several hooligans were restrained, and their bodies were bitten by Lin Kai. Lin Kai was the most miserable. 2 of his front teeth were knocked out, his leg was fractured, and a vase was hit on his head. He was directly dragged to the hospital by the ambulance. The scene was a mess. Tangwa and the others were asked to record their statements. Chapter 5063. As she was being dragged to the police station, Zhou Lingwei did not forget to remind the police to take a copy of the store's CCTV. After the statement was recorded, Yitang sent Tangwa back to the store. Zhou Lingwei saw the state of the store and couldn't help but tear up. Those hooligans were too evil. Call 2 people to clean it up, Tangwa said to Zhou Lingwei. Clean up the store for the next few days and open for business next week. Zhou Lingwei immediately stopped being sad. Boss, can we still open? Yes, we can. Zhou Lingwei sobbed. We've lost so much. Boss, don't force yourself. Yitang laughed to the side. This was the heiress of the Tang Corps. Not to mention one store being destroyed. Even if 10 or 100 stores were destroyed, they could still afford the loss. Don't worry. Hurry and call someone to clean it up. Then, Go home and rest. After receiving Tangwa's affirmation, Zhou Lingwei was no longer sad. Instead, she became more energetic. Today, she had gone through thick and thin with her boss. Why did those hooligans cause trouble in your store? Yitang asked casually as he sent Tangwa to the hospital. In reality, he could feel that Tangwa wasn't particularly angry about the store being destroyed. In fact, she seemed very calm. They brought a bouquet of flowers over and said that the flowers weren't good and caused their boss to fail in his pursuit of his girlfriend. So, they came looking for trouble. Then, they attacked my store. Then, what happened to Mr. Lin? He must have been passing by and saw someone destroying the store. As soon as he came up, he got into a fight with them. I didn't even have time to stop them. If they destroyed the store, then so be it. If they secretly called the police, they just had to fight with them. Losing those things is better than being beaten up. Mr. Lin's condition doesn't seem right, Yitang said. It's not the first time. Previously, I saw that his expression was very strange and fierce. It was like he had a deep grudge against those hooligans. In a while, at the hospital, I think I should remind the Lin family if they want to do a mental check on Mr. Lin. Tangwa really hated Lin Yikai. Today, he was beaten up and sent to the hospital. It was all because of her flower shop. Therefore, she had to find a way to let the plan of Lin Yikai and his friend LV Sheng be known. At that time, she would have no reason to be grateful to them. Even if the Lin family knew it, they wouldn't dare to kidnap her. When Tangwa arrived at the hospital, the Lin family was already waiting there. Seeing Tangwa's face, Lin's mother, she walked up to Tangwa and asked, "And his leg?" Lin Miao Miao glared at Tangwa hatefully. "My brother is really unlucky. He got into trouble in your flower shop and got his retribution." Although Mr. Lin didn't say anything, it was obvious that he was very dissatisfied with Tangwa. He didn't even look at her. Tangwa just said sorry, but the Lin family was not satisfied with her attitude. Just when they were about to say something, Tangwa's cell phone rang. She was standing next to Mrs. Lin and Lin Miao Miao. Seeing her looking at her cell phone, their expressions changed and they secretly looked at her cell phone. But before Tangwa could read the content sent by a strange number, a caller ID appeared. Tangwa picked it up at once, and a male voice sounded. "Miss Tang, what you thought was a hero saving a beauty is just a trick. I sent you something that you should be interested in." Chapter 5064. Not only did Tangwa hear this sentence, but also Mother Lin and Lin Miao Miao, who were standing beside her, heard it too. The phone had been hung up. Tangwa opened the previous folder again. After opening it, she found that there were videos inside. She clicked on the video directly. Mother Lin and Lin Miao Miao's curiosity was aroused, and they also glanced at her phone. It was quiet here. Tangwa didn't play the video loudly, so everyone might hear it. The first video was when LV Sheng gave Lin Yikai a bad idea. The second video was when Lin Yikai urged LV Sheng to arrange people quickly. The third video was when LV Sheng met Lin Yikai with a few gangsters. The three videos, together with the voices in them, were enough to prove that today's scene was all a scheme. It was just Lin Yikai and Lu Sheng's plan to play the hero to save the damsel in distress. However, for some reason, it was a little too much. After watching the video, Tangwa's eyes fell on the three members of the Lin family. The three members of the Lin family now only felt that their faces were burning. They complained in their hearts that they didn't know who their opponent was. How could he play such a trick on Lin Yikai? I didn't expect Mr. Lin to be such a person. Tangwa put away her phone. I don't think I need to stay here any longer. When Mr. Lin comes out, please tell him that we have already ended our relationship. Please don't bother to do this kind of thing, lest the consequences of today's incident happen again. In addition, I don't like to be deceived, especially this kind of scheme. At this moment, no matter what Tangwa said, the Lin family didn't say a word. They just wanted to cover their heads with a fig leaf. If Lin Yikai just helped to get injured, they could stand on the moral high ground and blame Tangwa however they wanted. Now the truth was out. It was obvious that Lin Yikai conspired with others. What position could they stand on? This accident was obviously caused by Lin Yikai himself. Tangwa turned to leave, and Yitang hurriedly followed her. Please take me to the police station. Of course, no problem. Yitang also did not expect that Lin Kai would actually do this. But on second thought, what kind of person was Lin Kai? It wasn't strange at all for someone who would do anything to achieve their goals. The person who sent the video to Tanghua wasn't a match for the Lin family. He just didn't like Lin Kai. When they arrived at the police station, Tanghua handed all the videos to the police. The police officers looked at each other and quickly copied the video. In the end, this was Lin Kai's doing. Tanghua had already returned home. According to her estimation, Lin Kai should be out of the operating room. Not long after, Lin Kai woke up. He did not know that the weather outside had changed. He was still expecting Tanghua to throw herself into his arms with tears in her eyes. He thought that no matter whether he had met an evil ghost or not, Tanghua would definitely be moved by his serious injury. However, when he opened his eyes, he found that the Lin family was all in the ward. He glanced around but didn't see Tanghua. Dad, Mom, where's Guagua? Didn't she come with you? Is she still in the police station? When he was in a daze, he heard the sound of the alarm, so he said this. Mr. and Mrs. Lin's expressions were complicated. Lin Miao Miao didn't know what to say. She was so embarrassed today. Dad, Mom, where's Guagua? Could something have happened to her? Mrs. Lin said angrily. What can happen to her? She's fine. Then, Father Lin interrupted Lin Kai's words and said with a sullen face, Are you hoping that she'll stay by your bedside and be so touched that she'll jump into your arms with tears in her eyes and be loyal to you from then on? Chapter 5065. Lin Kai was dumbfounded. Wasn't that the case? Father Lin looked at him and scoffed. You didn't do a clean job, and someone even took a video as evidence. How could I have such a stupid son like you? Brother, because of you, I was so embarrassed today. I thought you were implicated because of Tangwa's flower shop. Who would have thought that those hooligans were in cahoots with you? It was so embarrassing. I've never been so embarrassed before. That's enough. Stop talking. Ikai just had an operation. Let him rest. Mother Lin couldn't stand it anymore. Lin Ikai was already in such a pitiful state. Ikai, how could you be in cahoots with those hooligans? You even got into a fight over a woman? Is it worth it? If they want to break up, then let them. With our family background, it's not like we can't find a suitable match. Lin Ikai was having a headache. He didn't expect things to turn out like this. Previously, he was still in a daze. No matter what, he was still injured because of the flower shop incident. Now that he was bleeding and had to stay in the hospital for a while, wouldn't Tanghua be moved to tears? Who would have thought that his and Lu Sheng's plan would be filmed by some nosy people and sent to Tanghua? Now, not only would Tanghua be moved, it would be impossible for them to reconcile. There was clearly no problem. How did this happen? I wonder who's messing with me. Lin Kai complained to 978. Should I have followed the original plan and not changed it on my own? She was going to like me anyway. When the time comes, I won't do anything to hurt her or abandon her. Wouldn't that be fine? 978. What should I do now? Host, I think you're done for. Your plan with Lu Sheng to save the damsel in distress didn't work. Now that she knows about it, it even backfired. Not many women can accept this kind of setting. Actually, even without 978's words, Lin Kai already knew he was done for. You should rest well. Don't go out for a while. Don't even think about Tangkor. It's useless even if you do. Father Lin was really angry. This matter could not be hidden. When the time came, the people in the circle would probably laugh at the Lin family. 978. Is there really no room for negotiation? If you still want to try, you'll have to wait until you're better. I think you can test the waters for the first mission. Based on the current situation, I don't expect you to succeed in one try. Under 978's consolation, Lin Kai understood. All right, I won't hold the mentality of success for this world's mission. When I'm better, I'll try again and learn from the experience of failure. Anyway, there are 3 chances. Losing one chance isn't a big problem. It was not that he didn't want to succeed, but Tanghua already knew that he was looking for gangsters, so he had to accept his fate. That day, Lin Kai tried to call Tanghua, only to find that he had been blacklisted. Not only that, but the police also came to ask him about the situation. The next day, Tangwa sent someone to look for Linikai and ask him to compensate for the loss of the flower shop. The news of Linikai looking for gangsters spread in the circle. For a while, it was a joke. Tangwa continued to run her flower shop and maintain the same life as before. However, in her flower shop, there was a customer who came to buy flowers on time every day. Yitang bought flowers for half a month. Every time, he would greet Tangwa, but she didn't ask him who he was buying flowers for. He was very distressed. Peak. Chapter 5066. You buy these flowers every day. Who do you buy them for? On the 30th day, Yitang finally waited for Tangwa to ask this question. He was unable to contain his joy. One could see the joy between his eyebrows. He replied in a light tone, I bought them to decorate the house. I didn't give them to anyone. It's just a simulation. If I have a girlfriend in the future, I'll buy her flowers every day. If I develop this habit, I won't forget it in the future. Oh, so that's how it is. Tangwa didn't ask any more questions. She asked Zhou Lingwei to wrap the flowers for Yitang. How could Zhou Lingwei not see that Yitang was obviously interested in her boss? In fact, she didn't expect Linikai to be that kind of person. She didn't expect to go for wool and come home shorn. Thinking about it, Linikai should be recovering soon. She didn't know if he would still come to her boss because of that incident. If it was a commoner girl like her, she definitely wouldn't want to leave Linikai, a rich second-generation heir. However, her boss didn't lack money. She wasn't bad herself. She definitely wouldn't fall for Linikai. Young Master Yi, do you have someone you like? Zhou Lingwei asked casually. In her opinion, this young Master Yi was much better than Linikai. At least he seemed sincere. Yitang thought for a moment and replied, Yes, I just don't know if she likes me. I'm working hard. I hope she'll notice me one day. Zhou Lingwei didn't say anything else. Her boss was definitely not a fool. Young Master Yi was so obvious that she most likely knew what he meant. Sigh, being a flower shop employee these days, she had to be able to endure this kind of state of eating dog food every day. Recently, there are some new projects at the entertainment city. Miss Tang, are you interested in going? Yitang felt that he needed to take the initiative. He could feel that Tangwa didn't hate him. Since she didn't hate him, it meant that he had a chance. Young Master Yi, isn't it inappropriate for you to do this? Linikai's voice came from the door. He walked in with a bad expression and walked in front of Tangwa in 2 steps. Guogua, listen to me. I really didn't do it on purpose. I really didn't want to lose you, so? Tangwa glanced at Linikai and said, Say no more. We're not suitable for each other. Actually, I don't really like a prodigal son turning over a new leaf. I prefer a clean start. Tangwa's words completely blocked Lin Ikai's mouth. For a moment, he didn't know what to say. The corners of Yitang's lips couldn't help but curl up. Fortunately, he was the cleaner one. His parents had taught him to keep himself clean since he was young. Don't think that you can go out and fool around just because you're a man. When you have a girlfriend, you have to find someone you like. Don't do things like cheat others' feelings and play around. System. This guy, he can't even hide his expression. What's the new project you mentioned? Yitang knew that Tangwa had agreed. This was all thanks to Linikai. You'll know when you get there. It's on the water. In the end, he added, if young Master Lin is interested, you can come with us. This project isn't scary at all. Linikai was so angry that his mouth was about to go crooked. This sentence was extremely insulting. Speaking of which, Yitang was there when he made a fool of himself twice. There's nothing to say between us. Young Master Lin, I'll go my own way. I hope you won't disturb my life again. In the face of Tangwa's resolute words, Linikai had nothing to say. He couldn't force her, right? Even if he forced her, he wouldn't be able to get her heart, and the mission would still fail. Moreover, other things would probably happen. He could only watch as Tangwa and Yitang left. The two of them were still talking and laughing. Peak. Chapter 5067. By the way, young Master Lin, I want to remind you that you should go for a mental checkup. Tangwa walked 2 steps and suddenly remembered something. She turned back and said to Linikai, "I've seen your situation 3 times. You looked ferocious every time as if you saw something strange. I don't think it's normal. It's like a mental illness." Linikai wanted to shout that he was not sick, but when the words came to his mouth, he remembered his recent abnormal situation and was confused. At that time, he was the only one who had the problem. Even 978 didn't notice anything. Could it be that there was really something wrong with his mental state? The first time, he treated the staff as murderers and the props in the haunted house as corpses. The second time, he was on a roller coaster. He thought it was an abandoned roller coaster, and people kept dying. The third time, he was in Tangwa's flower shop. He thought he was surrounded by evil spirits. Linikai stood there and felt conflicted. He quickly shook his head. No, impossible. How could he be sick? It was absolutely impossible. He thought that there was something unclean on his body, so he should go to the temple to pray. Linikai didn't take Tangwa's words seriously. He came to find Tangwa a few times later, but it was to no avail. Then my mission in this world is considered a failure? Even if the system injected feelings, the mission didn't make much progress. In addition, the relationship between Tangwa and Yitang had been developing rapidly recently. Linikai didn't have much patience to continue doing that thing. Injecting feelings was one thing, but whether or not he would be loyal to a person and keep his chastity was another thing. Looks like it's hopeless. He's already past the stage where he's easy to fool. Now that he has a good and clean Yitang by his side, it'd be strange if he'd like you. You're a scumbag and a second-generation rich kid. To be honest, other than being a scumbag, you can't compare to Yitang in any way. Looks can't compare, height can't compare, wealth can't compare, IQ can't compare. Okay, that's enough. Who's your host? Since you can't compare, then forget it. See you in the next world. Why don't you send me to the next world? Are you dreaming? I'll even send you to the next world. Don't you want energy? You haven't even completed your mission. How am I supposed to send you to the next world? You're here to change the life of a scumbag. Now, you have to live through this life before you can leave. That was really a painful thing. Linikai rubbed his head. Forget about the female fever. I'm afraid I'll get the same disease as I did in my previous life. Let's do something else. Thinking of this, Linikai suddenly had an idea. Since I can't get her heart, I don't want Yitang to have an easy time. Anyway, I know the opportunity. Why don't I destroy the Yi family and make that Yi guy suffer? He's indeed a scumbag. Even if he can't get her, he can't bear to see others suffer. Okay, you can't get her heart anyway. Do whatever you want. Let me tell you first, you only have 3 chances. If you fail the next 2 times, you won't have another chance. I know. I'll definitely complete the mission seriously in the next world. I guarantee that the woman who likes me will like me again and be loyal to me. The 2 of us will live happily together for the rest of our lives. Is that okay? Peak. Chapter 5068. Dear host, Linikai seems to be planning to turn over a new leaf. He is currently learning from his father in the Lin Group. During this period, he proposed several good profit plans and won the praise of the company's senior management. I think this guy's purpose is not pure and may be harmful to the Yi family. Has he been doing anything recently? Yes, he won't be absent from the recent business reception. This guy wants to get the power of the company as soon as possible so that he can make a move on the Yi family. After learning that Linikai would not be absent from the business reception, Tangwa found the manager of the Tang Group and asked for the entry qualification of the reception. She was present at a recent cocktail party. Yitang was also there that day. He didn't expect that Tangwa would come, so he ignored everything and followed her like a bodyguard. Tangwa's arrival did attract many people's attention. They were all speculating whether the only person left in the Tang Group was going to come out of retirement. Tangwa didn't have that plan. She just came to see Linikai, but he was dishonest again, so she could only plot to send him to the mental hospital for treatment. Why didn't you tell me you were coming? Otherwise, I would have picked you up. Yitang said. Tangwa, it was a last-minute decision. I just wanted to come and have a look. I didn't want to do anything. I've been living a quiet life, so I wanted to come and join in the fun. Yitang didn't think much about it. Since Tangwa could come here and didn't refuse to stay with him, it meant that he had succeeded. The two chatted, and not long after, Lin Kai also came. The 4 members of the Lin family all came. As soon as Lin Kai walked in, he saw Tangwa and Yitang. Lin Miao Miao's eyes fell on Yitang first. Young Master Yi. How many women in the circle were not tempted? Although Tangwa was able to sit here calmly, in fact, there were already many pairs of fiery eyes falling on her. But she didn't care. No matter how long they stared, it was useless. As long as they didn't provoke her, it didn't matter. She's looking at you. Tangwa found Lin Miao Miao's infatuated eyes. You're too attractive. Yitang revealed a very innocent look. There was nothing he could do when others looked at him. He couldn't possibly go over and say fiercely that others were not allowed to look at him. The only thing he could do was to turn a blind eye and ignore it. Lin Kai still walked towards Tangwa. To be exact, he walked towards Yitang. Young Master Yi, you're in a good mood. Young Master Lin, Yitang replied calmly. Lin Miao Miao hurried over and greeted Yitang warmly. Young Master Yi, I didn't expect you to come too. Hello, Miss Lin. At this time, the music just sounded and Lin Miao Miao said boldly, Young Master Yi, are you interested in dancing? My apologies. Yitang refused without hesitation. Other than my mother and my girlfriend, I don't dance with other women. Lin Miao Miao was a little embarrassed. She smiled and couldn't help glaring at Tangwa, who was sitting aside. Yitang knew that he had made Tangwa hate him, but he was really innocent. He couldn't refuse, could he? Beautiful lady, do you want to dance? Yitang reached out to Tangwa. Tangwa patted his hand and said, I don't want to dance. Well, tell me when you want to dance. Lin Miao Miao's smile stiffened, and she glared at Tangwa again. Yitang felt very guilty about this. He felt that no matter what he did, he would make Tangwa hate him. But he couldn't hide his feelings because of others, could he? Miss Lin's eyes are uncomfortable. Why don't you go to the hospital? Yitang said straightforwardly. Don't stand here and stare at his girlfriend all the time. At the top. Chapter 5069. Lin Miao Miao was pissed off by Yitang. Tangwa couldn't help glaring at Yitang. Yitang whispered in her ear, You don't dance with me, but you can't stop me from showing my love for you. I already have a lot of enemies. Tangwa pushed him to the side, completely treating the Lin siblings as if they were heir. I'll protect you. If you're afraid of living alone, I can move in with you. You can also move in with me. Yitang said shamelessly, I'll send you to work and pick you up from work. If you are afraid that the flower shop will be smashed again, I will hire 2 bodyguards for you. When Lin Kai heard this, he was so angry that his mouth almost went crooked. He really regretted that he decided to take Tangwa to the haunted house. If he didn't go to the haunted house, he wouldn't be contaminated by dirty things, wouldn't leave a bad impression on Tangwa, and wouldn't run into Yitang, the shameless guy. This shameless guy actually took advantage of the situation, leaving him no chance at all. Yitang, right? Just you wait. If I, Lin Kai, don't make your Lin family bankrupt in this lifetime, then my surname is not Lin. Yitang suddenly felt an uncomfortable aura coming from Lin Kai's body, and he frowned slightly. He was not surprised. It was normal for Lin Kai to be hostile to him. Tangwa came here for business today. She had been paying attention to the waiter who served the wine. Seeing that she was about to finish the wine, she waved to him. Seeing that there were 4 people here, the waiter brought 4 glasses of wine over. Tangwa picked up a glass and handed it to Yitang, asking casually, Mr. Lin, Miss Lin, do you want it? No, I don't like drinking. I drink soft drinks. Lin Miao Miao replied quickly. She almost died just now. Mr. Lin, do you want it? Tangwa asked again. Lin Kai didn't refuse. He nodded gently, and Tangwa handed him a glass. Lin Kai certainly liked Tangwa, so it was difficult for him to refuse her. Tangwa successfully took a glass for herself and drank slowly. Lin Kai came here today to talk about something. After drinking the wine, he went to find his target. 10 minutes later, Tangwa heard a scream and the sound of a glass breaking in a certain direction. Some voices came to her intermittently. Mr. Lin is crazy. Mr. Lin suddenly went crazy and beat President Zhang. He overturned the table and hit President Zhang's head with a wine bottle. God, it's so scary. If it weren't for the waiter, Mr. Zhang's head would test head. Yi Tang looked at Tang Gua. Does he really have a mental illness? Maybe. Including this time. I've seen him have had 4 outbursts. When Tang Gua said this, Lin Miao Miao happened to pass by her in a hurry. Hearing her words, Lin Miao Miao glared at her again. Miss Lin, I advise you to take Mr. Lin to have a checkup when you have time. He has had 4 outbursts. Lin Miao Miao didn't glare at Tang Gua this time. She had some doubts in her heart. Was her brother really mentally ill? No matter whether it was true or not, today's matter was serious. The cooperation was absolutely ruined, and President Zhang was completely offended. There was no chance for cooperation in the future. Lin Yikai had been going crazy. In the end, he was tied up by many waiters and sent to the hospital. Now, without Lin Miao Miao's reminder, everyone knew that he had a mental problem. The Lin family had to take him to have a checkup, but everything was normal. But after that, Lin Yikai had several outbursts at home. He often punched and kicked the people around him. He even pushed Lin Yikai down the stairs. Mr. Lin was almost beaten by Lin Yikai. In the end, the Lin family decided to send Lin Yikai to a mental hospital. That day, Lin Yikai shouted that he was not sick. But who would believe him? I'm really not sick. Why don't those people believe me? In the mental hospital, Lin Yikai broke down and said loudly, 978, I'm really not sick. The nurse beside him was used to it and didn't ask who he was talking to. Really? 978 asked with uncertainty. Chapter 5070. I'm really not sick. Lin Yikai explained to the system 978, but he found that 978 didn't believe him. So, in the following boring days in the mental hospital, he communicated with 978 every day and didn't get sick again. 978 finally believed that Lin Yikai was not sick. Because he didn't get sick, Lin Yikai tried to go out, but every time he was so emotional that he couldn't go out. Another reason was that someone instigated Lin Miao Miao, and Lin Miao Miao even planned to embezzle the family property. Since Lin Yikai entered the mental hospital, she finally realized the happiness of her parents' only child. She didn't want Lin Yikai to go back. She didn't know how comfortable she would be without Lin Yikai. So she did something to make Lin Yikai encounter some difficulties in leaving the hospital. As a result, Lin Yikai couldn't leave the hospital for the rest of his life. Lin Miao Miao's parents believed that Lin Yikai was sick. Later, when they got older, they simply handed this matter over to Lin Miao Miao, so he had no chance to leave the hospital. A long time later, the Lin group was handed over to Lin Miao Miao and gradually declined. Tang Gua married Yi Tang and lived a happy life. Even on the verge of death, she didn't intend to reveal anything to Lin Yikai. She still regretted that Lin Yikai still had 2 chances. If she couldn't foresee him in the next life, maybe he could really succeed. The system tried to catch 978, but 978 was a little different from the previous systems. It was very vigilant. As soon as the system revealed a little bit of its aura, 978 immediately retreated and never appeared again. In the later period, even Lin Yikai thought that 978 thought he was a waste and abandoned him directly. It wasn't until his life came to an end that 978 appeared. Host, I will send you to the next world. You didn't leave? Host, are you kidding? How can I leave? I have to help you complete the task. Then why didn't you appear before? I thought you abandoned me. Lin Yikai still hoped to continue to live with his memory, otherwise, he would have already cursed 978. He had lived such a miserable life that he almost became mentally ill. The people here were all abnormal, and he was so frustrated that he could die. At first, he was very ambitious. He wanted to make the Lin family feel guilty after he got out. Later, when Lin Miao Miao took over the Lin family, and he heard that the Lin family had declined and went bankrupt, he gave up the idea. He also understood who didn't want him to go out. Wasn't it Lin Miao Miao's useless sister who wanted to be in charge of the company? How infuriating. Can we leave now? Yes, host. Wait a minute. Where did you go? I kept calling you, but you didn't appear. Is it because you don't have enough energy? Hibernate? No, it's just that I suddenly felt a sense of danger and felt that it wasn't safe outside. 978 hurriedly explained. It's possible that an energy system that's more advanced than mine has appeared. I was afraid that the other party would do something to me, so I went into hibernation to hide so that the other party wouldn't find out. Just now, I tested it out. That danger is gone. Maybe the other party was just passing by. If the other party is still here, I plan to drag your soul to the next world. Although it's a little troublesome, it's much better than being caught by the other party. Why? It turns out that you systems don't belong to the same place. There are many different systems. This one is more complicated. When you complete a few more tasks, you can unlock more knowledge in this area. Apex. Chapter 5071. After arriving in this new world, Lin Ikai took a deep breath of the air here and felt refreshed. He didn't rush to look at the information. He wandered around the house a few times. After experiencing his freedom, he returned to the house. Host, have you moved enough? It's time to look at the information. Because you failed the mission in the previous world, the teleportation time in this world will be delayed. In other words, it won't be as timely. Something has already happened, and it can't be undone. Lin Ikai felt a little bad. Send me the memory. Bad? How bad is it? Fuck. Isn't this a trap? We're already enemies. How can I get her heart? After Lin Ikai finished reading the plot, he felt bad. 978. I suspect that you're making things difficult for me. How can this kind of task be completed? In this world, his identity is relatively ordinary. He was originally an orphan who was adopted by Dr. Tang. Later, seeing that his aptitude was good, Dr. Tang decided to teach him medical skills. Dr. Tang has a daughter named Tanghua, who is his junior sister. They were childhood sweethearts. Dr. Tang, his master, once intended to betroth her to him. A few years ago, the two were engaged. In this world, he is not only a scum, but his character is also quite bad. He is particularly ambitious. He doesn't want to stay in this small town at all. He wants to go out and see a different world. Until one day, the princess of the dynasty passed by this town, and he had a chance. It's just that his identity is ordinary. How can he attract the attention of the princess? He can find out that the other party is a princess because he inadvertently eavesdropped. Moreover, he still has a marriage contract. Dr. Tang and Tanghua are his obstacles. If he wants to get close to the princess, these two obstacles must be removed. Inadvertently, he also learned that Dr. Tang has a very magical medical book in his hands. The medical book inside is very magical. This medical book is only passed down to the family. He can know this because he likes to eavesdrop. When Dr. Tang taught it to Tanghua, he inadvertently heard it. And some of the prescriptions in this medical book, such as removing scars, won't it make the princess treat it differently? There was a scar on the princess's neck. Because of this, the collar of her clothes was very high. At first, Lin Ikai planned to cheat the medical book from Tanghua. Later, he found that the medical book was not in the hands of Tanghua, but in the hands of Dr. Tang. So, he disguised himself and decided to steal from Dr. Tang's room. He took advantage of the time when Tanghua and her mother were visiting relatives. At that time, there were only him and Dr. Tang at home, so it was very easy to make a move. However, he didn't expect Dr. Tang to wake up. He was discovered and his mask was removed by the other party. He had no choice but to attack Dr. Tang and knock him out. But before he could do anything, Tanghua and her daughter came back and saw him committing a crime. Then, he went all out and knocked the two of them unconscious. If he stirred up trouble again, he would carry the three of them to the cliff and throw them down. Several days had passed since that day. According to the original plot, Tanghua did not die after falling off the cliff. She only lost her memory. After her injury was healed, she ran out again. She forgot what happened that night. She only remembered that there was a fiancé who was her childhood sweetheart. She followed her memory and came back. Only then did she know that he went to the capital. When she arrived in the capital, she found out that Linikai was already the emperor's son-in-law. Linikai was not happy at all when he found her arrival. Seeing that she didn't know what happened in the past, he was afraid that the other party would remember something. He was even more afraid that the wealth he worked so hard to get would be gone. So, he found a human trafficker and kidnapped Tangwa and sold her. He didn't know where she was sold to. The summit. Chapter 5074. If Linikai didn't please the princess and talked about his fiancée in the market, the arrogant and reserved princess would never be a bad person and break up others. On the contrary, Linikai would use the princess to hook up with the emperor and become more and more powerful. A person like Linikai would never miss this opportunity. He must think that the more powerful he was, the more he could cover up his previous mistakes. Regardless of whether she, the victim, would recover her memory, at least he would have a backup plan. If she guessed correctly, when she appeared in front of Linikai, he would definitely show a loving look and treat her well. He couldn't wait to marry her immediately. Dad, actually, I've already memorized our family Tang's treasure. Just as Father Tang was sulking, Tangwa suddenly said. Father Tang and Mother Tang looked at her in surprise and asked in unison, Really, Guo-er? Really? I've already memorized it. In a while, I'll carve it in the cave with a stone. Dad, you're familiar with it, so you can see if there are any mistakes. Father Tang couldn't care less at this moment and quickly nodded. Good, good, good. Dad's good Guo-er. Our family Tang's inheritance will fall on you. Dad, I have an idea. Linikai is ruthless. If he really uses our family Tang's treasure to hook up with the rich and powerful, even if we go out, I'm afraid we won't be able to get away with it. We might even be killed by him again. The two's expressions changed. This wasn't impossible. Linikai was definitely capable of doing anything. They were just ordinary people with no power. Father Tang regretted it. He didn't care much about himself, but because he wasn't kind at all, he implicated his wife and daughter. He really shouldn't have. Guer, what do you think? Father Tang was still calm. Tangwa said, Dad, when we find a way out, we won't go back to the original town for the time being. The two of you can go somewhere else to settle down. I'll go back alone to ask for information and see how the situation is first. No. Father Tang and Mother Tang quickly said. How could this be possible? Tangwa continued. I'll pretend to have lost my memory. The two looked at each other. What did this mean? If I pretend to have lost my memory, even if I meet Linikai, he will let his guard down. When the time comes, I'll plot something else and find his mistakes. Father Tang and Mother Tang were very worried. Father Tang sighed and said, If it doesn't work, then forget it. We'll go somewhere else. If he really has connections with the rich and powerful, he is not someone ordinary people like us can afford to offend. Guer, please don't show off. Since we're all still alive, and we haven't thrown away the heirloom, let's change to a new place and live in anonymity. There's no need to risk our lives. Your father is right, Mrs. Tang said. They were unwilling to accept this, but after experiencing this life and death calamity, what could be better than living? Ufsts Tang's sts, it's. If the other party really became a big tree, then they would be ants. It would be better to stay away from it. Tangwa found that these two people were very open-minded, very good-looking, and clear-headed. But on the surface, she still had to agree. Okay, Dad, Mom, I'll just go out and take a look. If I can't afford to offend him, I'll come back. Our family will stay away from him. Hearing Tangwa say this, Father Tang and Mother Tang let out a sigh of relief. Over the next 10 days, the three of them recuperated. Linikai also closed his medicine shop and went on the road to find the three of them. In reality, he was going to the capital. In the end, She was sold to a brothel because of her good looks. The brothel madam treated her like a money tree, but she only wanted to escape and refused to obey. No matter how many times she was beaten, scolded, and tortured, she refused to obey. There was even one time when she pretended to obey, but in fact, she turned her head and bit the customer. The old procuress of the brothel tortured her in every possible way, but she was still unable to tame her. In the end, she could only clench her teeth and give up. But she didn't want to let her off so easily, so she used a branding iron to burn a scar on her face. She felt that she had a sharp tongue, so she made her teeth look haggard and poisoned her into a mute. Afraid that she would run away and waste so much money, she had someone break one of her legs. She finally stopped causing trouble. She obediently stayed in the brothel and worked as a coolie for the girls. She treated those pitiful girls and adjusted their bodies. It wasn't that she didn't want to go out. It was just that her face was ruined and her teeth were broken. She couldn't speak and could no longer face the person she liked. Chapter 5076. In her opinion, this was probably fate playing tricks on them. There was no fate. Since Linikai had become the prince consort by accident, his future was bright. She didn't need to worry about anything. At this time, she still hadn't remembered her past. Perhaps those memories were too painful, so she subconsciously forgot them. However, what happened in the past had happened. When it was time to remember, she would remember. That night, a thief broke into the brothel. She happened to hear the commotion. When she came out to check, she was knocked unconscious by the thief with a stick. When she fainted, the lost memories came back like a tide. When she woke up, she beat her chest and stomped her feet in the room, wailing. At that time, the person she hated the most was herself. Because she didn't want to remember those memories, she subconsciously avoided them and couldn't remember them in time. The person she had always hoped for was the person who killed her parents, and she actually wanted to drag out an ignoble existence again. She didn't know if her parents in the netherworld would scold her day and night if they knew about this. Because of the good karma she had formed, the girls in the brothel treated her well. When they saw her crying miserably, they asked her what happened. She picked up a pen and wrote down the bloody incident. The group of girls scolded her and said that they would help her take revenge. These years, she had been paying attention to Linikai's situation. She knew that he was more and more valued by the emperor. These girls in the brothel had no power or influence. If they went against him, they would die. Their fates were not good to begin with, so how could she implicate innocent people? Thus, she rejected their good intentions. The girls also knew that they couldn't help, so they gathered money to buy her freedom. At least this way, she would be free and could do what she wanted to do. This time, she didn't refuse. After obtaining her freedom, she took the money the girls gave her and went on the road. It was a road of revenge with no chance of success. When she came to the capital, she tried to sneak into the princess residence. After asking around, she found out that Princess Taiyu liked delicious food. She remembered that Princess Taiyu went to the small town she lived in many years ago. It was most likely for that one bite of food. Because of her ugly appearance, it was impossible for her to enter the princess residence. Linikai had many bodyguards around him, so it was impossible to assassinate him. As for poisoning, Linikai obtained her family Tang's medical books. His medical skills were probably much better than hers. It would be very difficult to succeed. Poisoning was almost impossible. After learning about Princess Taiyua's preferences, she spent 10 years traveling all over the country to learn about the local cuisines before returning to the capital. Chapter 5077. Ever since Linikai took the initiative to ask her to make some delicious food, she began to simulate how to kill him. She always kept a dagger in her sleeve, even when she was sleeping. She didn't act from the beginning, but repeated the same scene countless times. Finally, she made her move when Linikai was about to eat tea. She placed the tea beside Linikai. Seeing him holding his chin and thinking on the stone table, looking a little drowsy, she took out the dagger and slit his neck. But at that moment, Lin Ikai's child appeared and called out Daddy, causing her years of preparation to go up in smoke. Lin Ikai, who had already woken up, casually beat her until she couldn't fight back. He even broke her hand. She was locked up. Lin Ikai later found out about her identity, so he naturally chose to kill her. He even whispered to her, "Junior sister, since you're still alive, you shouldn't come back." She shed tears, feeling the life that was disappearing. She wouldn't come back? As long as she was alive, she would take revenge. Even if she was a moth flying into a flame, she wouldn't hesitate. Guo, wait a moment. Father Tang's voice pulled Tangwa back from her thoughts. Only then did she realize that she was a little far from the two of them. She stopped and walked back. "Father, what's wrong?" "I smell blood. Judging from the smell, it's human blood. I don't know if there are fierce beasts nearby. Let's be careful." Father Tang had already taken out a sharp stick and looked around warily. Also, see if the person who suffered is still alive. Mother Tang saw Father Tang's worried expression and said unhappily, "You just said that you won't be a good person anymore. You can't hold it in anymore?" "Madam, no matter what, I'm still a doctor. I can't just leave someone to die, right? A doctor's job is to save the dying and heal the injured. I'm not bringing him home. If he's still breathing, I'll bandage him up and move him to a safe place. I won't even leave a name. How about it? All right. Do you think I don't know you after all these years? Let's save them. They're all in trouble. If we don't save them, I won't be able to rest easy," Mrs. Tang said. She was also on guard, her eyes searching the area. "Tongzi, have you found him?" "Dear host, I found it. Walk 50 steps to the right and you'll see it. It's still breathing." Tangwa realized that her father was also walking in that direction, and his pace was getting faster and faster. It was obvious that he had sensed something in that direction. She complained to the system, "My father's nose is very sharp. He can even smell it." There aren't many people like the host's father. Many people don't want to meddle in other people's business. They're all afraid of getting into trouble. He's a doctor. This is an occupational disease. He can't just leave him to die. Here it is. Father Tang raised his voice and quickened his steps. Soon, they arrived at the destination indicated by the system. Tangwa wasn't in a hurry. Instead, she supported Mother Tang and followed behind. When the two of them arrived, Father Tang was already checking the injuries of the people in the bushes. "Old man, are you still alive?" Mother Tang asked with concern. She knelt down beside Father Tang and habitually opened the bag on her body. "What medicine do you need?" Seeing this, Tangwa shook her head speechlessly. Her mother was talking about her father. Wasn't it the same? Both of them had occupational diseases. "Get me something to stop the bleeding. This guy has a very deep knife wound on his back. It'll be gone if we wait any longer." Chapter 5078. Tangwa watched from the side as her parents worked together to treat the patient. She didn't want to disturb them. With their temperament, if they met a bad person, she really didn't know what to do. Now that she was here, it was fine for them to do something they liked. The biggest regret of the original owner was that she couldn't take revenge. Now that her parents were living well, she would take care of them. She would let them live happily for the rest of their lives and do what they liked. She would take care of the safety issues. "It's a young man." After bandaging the patient, Father Tang looked at the young man lying on the ground. "Madam, can we leave him here? There's no village in front, no shops behind, and it's in the wilderness. If he doesn't wake up at night, will he be eaten by wild beasts? Then wouldn't all my effort and herbs be wasted?" Mother Tang said, "Yes, it's too dangerous to leave him here." The two thought of something and looked at Tangwa with innocent eyes. Tangwa expressed that she was innocent. She walked over and squatted down to look at the young man lying in the grass. "Why don't we bring him along? I don't think this person looks like a bad person." She reached out to touch the jade pendant on the man's waist. "He looks quite rich. Maybe he can give us a lot of money for revenge." Saving the dying and healing the injured is basic. Guo, we don't practice medicine for money. This is the teachings of our family Tang ancestors. Father Tang said sincerely. He was afraid that his daughter would become greedy for money. A doctor who was greedy for money would easily do things that went against their ancestors' teachings and went against their conscience. He had to correct them in time. Father, it's fine to charge more when treating the rich. We also need to pay for treatment. Think about it. If you treat the poor, you might not take a single cent. Then in the long run, can you continue to save people? If you have money, you can charge more. If you treat them, they won't be stingy. If they give you money, you can take it. If they don't have money, you can charge less. Father Tang heard this and felt that it made sense. Guo also agrees not to put this place here. Father Tang changed the topic. Tangua nodded. This is the wilderness. If there really are wild beasts, I'm afraid this person won't be able to survive. It's better to take him with us. But how are we going to take him away? Mrs. Tang asked a crucial question. This person isn't light. I'm afraid the three of us together won't be able to carry him far. Father Tang was silent. Why don't we stay here and wait for him to wake up? His injuries were not serious. He had fainted due to exhaustion and excessive blood loss. Now that the bleeding had stopped, he would wake up in at most a day. When he wakes up, we'll feed him some food. He should be able to walk on his own. This was the best solution for the three of them, and it was approved by Tangua and her mother. Tangua found a place near the cliff. It just so happened that there were some caves. She moved the man over. They also planned to spend the night here and wait for the man to wake up. You know? The system said faintly, you're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.